haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amina. We have quorum. Can start.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, petitions. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honourable members, standing order number 225, subsection 2, paragraph B, requires that the Speaker reports to the House any petition other than those presented through a member. I therefore wish to convey to the House that my office has received a petition signed by one Anthony Muchui Manyara and another regarding the management of operations at the National Youth Service. Honourable members, the petitioners allege that the National Youth Service, currently under the Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs, is being mismanaged and is a center for massive corruption, occasioning serious wastage of taxpayers' resources. Honourable members, the petitioners therefore pray that 1, the National Assembly investigates the pending bills on the NYS Youth Empowerment Program, and 2, transfers the functions and operations of the National Youth Service to be under the management of the members of Parliament at the constituency level for effective management. Honourable members, as you are aware, the first part of the prayers is already being addressed by the Public Accounts Committee. With regard to the second part of the prayers, Article 132 of the Constitution vests the responsibility of assigning, directing, and coordination of the functions of ministries and government departments to the Presidency and not to this House. This implies that the prayer falls outside the matters within the authority of Parliament. Honourable members, in view of the above, only the first part of the prayers of this petition is admissible, and since the investigations by the Public Accounts Committee have been active for quite some time now, I will request that the Clerk of the National Assembly do forward the report of the committee to the petitioner once the report is tabled. I thank you, members.
Order number 5, papers.
So somebody must stand up and say whether he doesn't want the deaf people the deaf and the dumb people in our country an opportunity on how they access when they go to doctors, when they want to go to key government positions. So the chair of Labour, Mr. Speaker, should tell us what has become of my petition on behalf of the good people who belong to the family of disability. And as today we have one of the major conferences in UK on disability. I'm sure they are watching us, and we really wanted the chair to tell us whether he has met that section of the Kenyan society.
Honorable Wario, what is the position of that petition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare respects the disabled society. They are part and parcel of our society. We can only prosecute a petition which is before us, Mr. Speaker. I will confirm to you that petition has not yet reached us. As quickly as it is, yes, as quickly as it reaches me, we will prosecute it as quickly as possible, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there was the other petition brought by Mheshimiwa Asocion. It took a whole month in table office, before it was brought to us. So this one has not yet reached us, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I think then it means there's something not happening at the table office. The clerk is therefore instructed to make sure that the instruction are that once a petition has been read out here on the floor of the House, Honorable Omboko Milemba, what you are doing is out of order. Yeah, if you want to speak to the member for Kangundo, just move from your place to his place and whisper to him so that we can transact business. So the table office and indeed the clerk's department is instructed to ensure that we don't get these kind of complaints. Once a petition has been read out here, the moment it lands in the table office, it should be transmitted immediately to the clerk in charge of the relevant committee so that the 60 days or whatever other period begins to run. So, Honorable, but I'm sure little majority and little minority, we will discuss that and ensure that this doesn't recur. Majority, we put your point of order.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, whereas the blame may go to the table office, but will indeed also proper for the clerks of the committee to follow what happens, what takes place in the House in terms of even getting the Hansard report, because we cannot entirely rely on what the action of the table office, Mr. Speaker, because petitions are pronounced in the House, and they're either brought by members or through your office. And I was thinking that it was also equally the responsibility of the clerk of respective committees to follow what is taking place in the chambers so that they can advise the chair and the respective members of that committee, Mr. Speaker.
That will be a slower process because it's also what happens in the chamber will need to be transcribed. And if they wait for the transcription, that might take slightly longer than if the table office acts of what happened, for instance, this morning, when, of course, as we expect, they are also doing other things the committees may have assigned them to do. So I think it is the responsibility of the table office to be in touch with the various clerks heading various committees. Honorable Kamket, you are in a breach of standing order. No. You know the rules. At least the Honorable Kamket cannot feign ignorance because he has also served, not just as a former speaker, but as an officer of this parliament. So, and then after that, graduated to some speaker somewhere. Before now being elevated to be a member of the House. So I think let's get the table office doing this. It will be a lot easier. Honourable members, before we move to the next order, I wish to recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of students and pupils from the following institutions: Jogoo High School, Narok South Constituency, Narok County. AIC Chebisas Girls High School, Moiben constituency, West Gishu County. And Pure's Students State House, Nairobi. That must be Westlands constituency, Nairobi County. And finally, those from Bugoma DEB School, Kadui constituency, Bugoma County. They are all welcome to observe the proceedings in the National Assembly this afternoon. The Honorable, next order. Have you read it? Have you read it? Just read the order. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Honorable Gideon Keter.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 43, I seek leave of the House for the purpose of making a statement regarding the celebration of International Youth Day scheduled for 10th August 2018 in the National Assembly chambers. Honorable Speaker, I wish to inform the House that I represent the National Assembly as a member of the steering committee set up by the Cabinet Secretary of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs to coordinate the commemoration of the International Youth Day. This is a day to mark the youth in our society and their role in nation building. Honorable Speaker, the theme of this year's fete is Safe Spaces for Youth. This theme resonates well with the government's commitment to ensure that youth are accorded a platform to engage in meaningful discussion with stakeholders so as to better its service delivery to youth. It is worth to know that the youth need to be engaged in the Big Four discussion so as to ensure that government policies are inclusive to the youth who constitute a big chunk of the populace. The fete will offer an opportunity for both the sides to engage and others and develop a clear roadmap towards the realization of youth-friendly society. Honorable Speaker, it is for this reason that I seek for your indulgence to make an appeal to members of this House to sponsor at least 2 youth, a male and a female, from each constituency across the country to come and celebrate and the foresaid event to be held on 10th August 2018 at the National Assembly chambers. Finally, Honorable Member, let me thank you for your commitment towards ensuring that International Youth Day is not only a success, but also the start of a journey towards making Kenya a youth-friendly society. Thank you.
Well, I hope every member has heard the appeal being made for you to sponsor at least 2 youth from your respective constituencies. They will come into the chamber on that day as youths to come and discuss matters of concern to themselves, which could also impact on those others whom you represent still. So, Honorable Ketel is making that special appeal. But of course, I want to also advise Honorable Ketel to also begin lobbying members individually now to, having made the appeal publicly, begin lobbying other members to assist you. Very well, next order.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017, question to be put and third reading.
Member for Kipkelion West, if you could take your seat. Member for Kipkelion West, if you could take your seat. Honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded yesterday, and what remains is for the question to be put and proceed to the other processes. And I hereby do that. that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017, be now read a third time. I request, I'm not seeing the chair of ICT, but I'll request the majority whip. Where is he? Oh, he's there. He has also been displaced as a result of what's going on in Mau. I ask Honorable Kisang, the chair of ICT, to second.
Honorable Kisang.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to second that the Copyright Bill, Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017 be now read a second time, and thank all my colleagues for taking the time to go through the bill and discuss in this House. Honorable Speaker, I second.
I never put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the same report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Copyright Act.
I thought I did it. Yes, I should do it because I've done it. I will just repeat it. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017 be now read a third time. Also request the Chair, Honorable Kisang, to second.
Honorable Kisang.
Honorable Speaker, I stand to second.
I propose the question, and this is the difference. I am proposing the question. I propose the question, which is that the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017, be now read a third time. Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support that this motion be read a third time. This is an extremely important bill and should be an act of parliament. Many of our artists, musicians do a lot of work, but they never really see the benefits. And I know that this, if it becomes an act, will help them. We went through it, Mr. Speaker, and we noted that it may still need some work. There are some definitions, like we said yesterday, the definition of dramatic works needs to be put in place. And some of the structures, like the CEO of the small organizations, also need to be looked at. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support.
I never put the question, having confirmed that there's still sufficient, more than sufficient, the quorum, which is that the Copyright Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2017, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Copyright Act 2001. Order number 9, motion, report of the vetting of nominee for the appointment as chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, Honorable Limo.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to move this motion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that, taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in their report on the vetting of the nominee for approval as a chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, July 25th, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of the Section 11 of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Act, this House rejects the appointment of Dr. Ben K. Chuma as the chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Mr. Speaker, as the House is aware, the communication for the vetting of Dr. Chuma was relayed to the House by His Excellency the President on 27 June 2018, and subsequently, Mr. Speaker, the report, the nomination was relayed to the Committee on Finance and National Planning for the purpose of vetting. Mr. Speaker, as required by the standing orders and the relevant law on appointments of on Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Section 8 and 9, Mr. Speaker, this Committee on Finance and National Planning was required to approve or reject the appointment of this nominee within 14 days. And Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the House went on recess, and therefore this committee applied to your office for approval of extension of the appointment of this nominee because the stipulated time was to expire during the period of recess. Mr. Speaker, your office has subsequently approved the extension, and I want to report to this House that the extension expires by the end of tomorrow, 27 July 2018. Why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? I'm saying this because I feel, and the Committee on Finance and National Planning felt that they were unfairly attacked, not only by the public, not only by the press, but also members of this House, Mr. Speaker. And the attacks was actually like it was wrong for this committee to vet. And I want to bring to the attention of this House the national...
Or withdraw.
Honorable Limo, you know those are the rules. Eh? You know the accuracy you must be held accountable for the accuracy of your statements. So if you say there was if you say there were members of the committee and many quotas, and you are not naming the quotas, you leave the public and everybody else wondering who it is that was interfering and what was the nature of the interference. So you need to specify the kind of interference and levels. But if you say from the media now, that is, you know.
Mr. Speaker, I want to allay any kind of fears that there was interference from anybody who is higher or whatever it is. But there was a general feeling in the public, even yourselves, you are aware, that the public was believing that this House has already approved the name of Dr. Chuma. And I want to state very clearly that we are following the law. There was no approval without passing this House. You know, there was a general feeling that it was like predetermined, that this particular candidate was actually already approved. And I want to allay fears so that the public will know that this House follows the law. And there is no way Dr. Chuma could have been approved without passing the process which we are now undergoing. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to go straight. Dr. Chuma appeared before us on Monday, Mr. Speaker. And this particular nominee is... all right, maybe, Mr. Speaker, you know the name is almost similar in terms of even the number of letters. They are almost similar to my name. And therefore, you know, maybe the members will be feeling like I'm talking about Limo or Chuma. This is Dr. Chuma, and I'm not a doctor for that matter. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm very different from Dr. Chuma. Dr. Chuma is actually, was actually a nominee who was presented to this House by His Excellency the President. And this name was subsequently forwarded to the Committee on Finance and National Planning. He appeared before our committee on Monday, 23rd July 2018, where we actually interviewed this particular candidate. This nominee, this particular nominee, Mr. Speaker, is actually a Kenyan citizen.
Member for Sirisia, you must walk. You are in the House. You must look at the member who is speaking. Now you want to come, you stop a bit as somebody who is doing some jig.
All right, Mr. Speaker, Dr. Chuma is a Kenyan citizen who was born in 1956 in Uasin Gishu. He is a member of Institute of Human Resource Management. Mr. Speaker, he holds a PhD in Human Resource Management. He worked in KPLC for over 30 years. And most of the time, he was actually in Human Resource Department, where he rose to the level of Chief Human Resource Manager, Mr. Speaker, before he ascended to the position of CEO, KPLC, in 2013, where he served up to January 2017, when he retired, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Chuma was cleared by KRA. He's a tax compliant. He was also cleared by Higher Education Loan Board. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Chuma also is confirmed that he is the current chair of the University Council of Egerton University. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, he actually served as a CEO for 3.5 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during the interview, Dr. Chuma exhibited a lot of knowledge on topical issues. He also has adequate qualification. In terms of academic qualification, he has adequate qualification. He also portrayed a lot of indication that really he has a lot of experience in terms of human resource management, having spent almost 90% of his time in human resource management, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, in terms of suitability in qualification for this particular position, there was no question about that. Mr. Speaker, I just want to bring to your attention that as soon as the President forwarded his name to this House, Mr. Speaker, there is a question which aroused on integrity on this particular candidate, because he was arrested by the security organs and he was charged in court, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, on that particular issue, Mr. Speaker, we found that therefore, charged in court. You will actually find the explanation which he gave us in the report. And if I have to touch a bit, that particular issue where he was arrested, and this was the source of all the attacks, because you know some of us even don't know Dr. Chuma, even myself. I have never dealt with him before, but on that particular issue of being arrested, there was a lot of bashing all over, and it was even including our own members, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say this. I remember very well, before we went on recess, we had some adjournment motion here, where we were talking about the cases where members of the public, including members of this House, were being arrested, especially on Fridays, put in and practically brought to court on Tuesday, so that they ensure that you sleep in cell on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. This particular Dr. Chuma was arrested and he was taken to court. But the problem we have is we must protect the integrity of this House. When we talk about an issue, we should not be seen to be talking about an issue when it touches members, and then we leave the members of the public to be exposed. You know, it will actually reach a time also when your members of your family will be arrested unfairly and put in. And that one doesn't mean they are criminals. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record that the committee noted that the nominee exhibited good professional and academic qualification and experience to serve as the chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission. He had impressive knowledge on topical issues touching on human resource, which could have been invaluable in discharging functions of chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The committee also noted that, however, that this nominee did not meet the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and the Leadership and Integrity Act by the fact that he was on 16 July 2018 charged in the Anti-Corruption Court in case number 26/18, where it is actually written like it is Chuma himself, the Republic of Kenya versus Chuma and 14 others. Mr. Speaker, the committee further noted that the nominee, being a public servant or public officer and having been charged for corruption and economic crimes, had neither relinquished or stepped aside from the position as a chairperson of Egerton University Council. Mr. Speaker, further, the committee considered how provisions of Section 62 of Anti-Corruption and Economic Crime Act would affect the nominee, as it requires that a public officer who has been charged with corruption or economic crimes should be suspended. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, on this particular nominee, even if he was to be approved and probably appointed by the president, it will be difficult for him to take up this position because this particular law will not allow this particular nominee to take this position. Therefore, based on the above issues, Mr. Speaker, the committee is of the view that the nominee is unsuitable to be appointed as a chairperson of SRC. Mr. Speaker, and therefore, I conclude by saying this. The committee recommendation is as follows. At the end of the vetting process, Mr. Speaker, the committee made the following recommendation. Having considered the suitability, capacity, and integrity of the nominee, and pursuant to Article 252 of the Constitution, Section 5 and 711 of the Salaries and Remuneration Act number 10 of 2011, and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011, the committee recommends that the National Assembly rejects the nomination for appointment of Dr. Chuma as a chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk for having supported this committee to discharge its duties. And I also equally thank the members of the Committee on Finance and National Planning for the tremendous work they did despite the short time we had. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I give this chance to Honorable Dirangu, the chairperson of the vice chair of the Committee on Finance and National Planning, to second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Wayenya Dirangu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to second this motion in rejecting the appointee for the position of SRC
He's not an appointee.
A nominee.
He's only a nominee.
A nominee of the SRC. Mr. Speaker, perhaps to expound further what my chairman was saying, is that Kenyans are asking, where was the DCI, where was the EACC when the president was presenting the name of this nominee in front of Parliament, knowing his history, why didn't they take time to investigate the nominee even before Mr. Speaker? But I want to assure members, Mr. Speaker, that our committee is up to the task, and we have vetted the nominee and found him to be below the integrity levels required of the holder of such an important office. But I hasten also to remind members and the public generally, Mr. Speaker, that the vetting process is not an event. It is a process where the nominee is required to come before us, present his credentials, so that we can investigate and be able to present to Kenyans fairly and freely our findings to support our decision. And it is also important to remind members, Mr. Speaker, that according to the Public Appointments Parliamentary Authority Act of 2011, Section 9, that if we had not moved to vet the nominee, if we had boycotted, like some quarters were suggesting, the nominee would have automatically become the chair. Because in one way or the other, Parliament must reject or approve. Therefore, we were in a catch-22 situation. Mr. Speaker, there are some people who are expecting us perhaps to mistreat Ben Shumo or to create a lot of drama and theatrics. But Mr. Speaker, the law requires us
corruption properly, or we should not, we should not play games. Corruption does not entail your ethnic background. It does not concern your religion. It does not concern the region you come from. And Mr. Speaker, when somebody is taken to court, and we have precedent, a minister is taken to court, a PS is taken to court, a CEO of a person is taken to court, the next thing that the president, the executive, the appointing authority does, they step aside. What happens when that individual is before this House? So, Speaker, we must at all, we have been challenged, the judiciary has been challenged, the Parliament has been challenged, the executive has been challenged, that all of us together must join the president in the war against corruption. And Mr. Speaker, even more so, we must protect the integrity of this House. Speaker, we have been called MPs, and the matter we are dealing with is a serious matter. It's not the chair of Ombudsman. It's not even the chair of Kenya National Human Rights Commission. It's the chair of SRC.
Now, Leader Majority, let me just interrupt you, because we are still discussing these matters of integrity. Earlier on, Leader Majority stood in his place and claimed that he presented a petition on behalf of the deaf community. Now, you see, sometimes when some of these things, when we say them, we must be very clear, because the sword must cut on both ways. This is the information. The petition was forwarded to the committee in good time, and for the director of committee also informed the committee immediately. And it is confirmed that the table office submitted the petition on the same day it was presented to the House. So, Honorable Wario, now, you see, earlier on we were bashing the table office, but this is the information, and this is a petition. Now, you see, I just thought it was important because the Leader Majority raised the issue of integrity. So we must also not really blame our staff unfairly. So unless your clerk has not communicated to your committee, Honorable Wario, and in which case then that clerk must answer questions as to why. Because of course it was not brought to you. If it was not brought to your attention, it is not brought to the chairman's office or bedroom. It is given to the in charge of the particular committee. Then you are in charge of that committee is at fault. Honorable Ario. Just a word.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have had a number of meetings and we have done a number of petitions. I still stand with the same statement I made earlier. This petition has not been brought to my attention, neither to me or to the committee as well. So it is still with the clerk, if maybe the clerk of my committee. I'm sorry for insinuating or for condemning table office. If truly that report is with the clerk has not brought to our attention, Mr. Speaker, so we rather deal with him, and I apologize to the table office.
Indeed, very soon we are going to come up with proposals in our staff appraisals. We want to hear how committees also rate those that the staff that serve them. Because we can't just be promoting people if they are sleeping on their jobs. It is absolutely important that there must be some marks to be awarded on the basis of what the committee feels about the staff that serve them. Thank you. Very well. Leader Majority may proceed.
Speaker, in fact, the staff of Parliament should be on contract. A contract that can be appraised on their performance, so that we know we have men and women who can academically and physically they are fit. So, Mr. Speaker, what is before this House is the chair of SRC. And Mr. Speaker, those members who are in the 11th Parliament, who are sitting here, and even the 12th Parliament, you know how we have been reduced in terms of leadership scale in this country. So, Speaker, what Parliament went through under Sahara Serem, and you know God is great, Mr. Speaker. God is great. I have another opportunity to vet and discuss Sahara Serem. Sahara Serem did not know that one day she will look for a job that will need the vetting. Mr. Speaker, as the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission, and I'm sure my deputy, Honorable Jimmy Angwenyi was a member of the commission, and Honorable Kainan is a member of the commission. The number of trips, Mr. Speaker, I said that when that report is brought to the plenary, I will have an opportunity. And the chair of defense cannot gag me. He is purporting to gag me. I am not going to be in the vetting, but I will have the last laugh as a member for Garissa Township. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the worst case scenario, if this House will be voting, in the worst case scenario, if this House will be voting, I will abstain. Because, Mr. Speaker, let us gag our memory. When this Parliament came, Mr. Speaker, Sahara Serem, the chair of SRC, issued, as the chair, I'm making a reference to the previous chair. The Speaker, for you to discuss the current chair, for you to discuss this chair, you must discuss the institution.
Honour members, just a point. Honour members, there are many of you who placed your cards for interventions. No, just a minute. There are many of you who placed your cards for intervention immediately you walked in. And I've noticed that your intention was to contribute. Those of you who placed your cards for intervention, desiring to catch my eye to contribute to the general debate.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, in fact, I want to take this.
Those of you who wish to do interventions, because unfortunately, let me read out these names.
Mr. Speaker,
the Honorable Odhiambo Ochieng Game, he placed his card immediately. He sat in. He came almost dancing as he walked in. I saw him, and he immediately came in. It possibly cannot have been intending to intervene on anything, because he just sat and put. He needs to know no more contribution is not on the intervention slot. The next one, the Honorable Nyamita, member for Uriri. Again, your card is on intervention. The Honorable Milemba Mboko, member of Emuhaya, your card is on intervention. You see, this is why I have difficulties, because all these, and you see, the slot for intervention, the Honorable Kekaria. Honourable members, I am reading what is on my screen. Yes. Now, I can see several of you trying to raise up your hands. And I'm wondering why is it that those who are raising hands have not put interventions. But you know, you have been blocked by those who have put their hands there to contribute. Like now I can see the total is 13. But the screen only shows 4, the first 4. Those don't ask. Don't communicate that way. Member for Imenti Central. You see, it's unfortunate. These ones who have put their hands on interventions, you have blocked the others who may have wanted to intervene.
Can I speak? Can I talk?
I'm sure the member for game is not about intervention. But your hand is on intervention. Yes. Now, then let me for the time being, because I think it may be a technical hitch. Because obviously I've been seeing the Honorable Milemba all the time. His hand is on intervention, and I'm sure he doesn't want to intervene on anything. Exactly. I suspected, I knew that you wanted to contribute. The Honorable Otiende Amolo. Intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you because I had put my card on intervention, but now I know why you didn't see me. Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of order in respect of the contribution by the Leader of Majority. I think the presentation by the committee was going on well, and we are going to contribute. But there are 3 things the Leader of Majority has said in his intervention that I think may not be in order, Mr. Speaker. The first one is that the committee did not say they have found the nominee to have committed any crime. But the Leader of Majority says he's answering for crimes he committed. No court has found him to have committed the crimes either. Secondly, he says that this is a serious commission. This is not the chair of the ombudsman. Mr. Speaker, you will take judicial notice that I'm the first and former ombudsman. Is it in order for the Leader of Majority to suggest that as a constitutional commission, there are some chairs in this one, and that the chair of the ombudsman, who we are going to vet next, is a much lesser one in terms of consideration. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the Leader of Majority to anticipate debate on a presidential nominee which has not come to this House? On those 3 things, Mr. Speaker, I seek your guidance.
I think let's just do this. Let's all read our standing orders, and particularly standing order number 86, so that we just stick to the debate on this report and vote on it, so that we don't get. I can say we are likely to get too many people excited and agitated. I can see the member for Alego Usonga is also getting very agitated. Honorable Atandi, don't worry. You will have a chance to contribute. You will contribute to the report, which is the reason why I agreed with many of you that we couldn't put the question as had been requested by the member for Endebes, who has since left. Leader of Majority, Honorable Member for Kieni, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, as you have clearly put, and Honorable Junet yesterday said that we are the house that makes the law in the country, not participate. And in our own standing orders, as you have clearly put it, and I want to read for the avoidance of doubt, proceedings of select committee not to be referred to. Our own standing orders. No member shall refer to the substance of the proceedings of a select committee before the committee has made its report to this House. Mr. Speaker, the other day we saw it, I think on Monday, the Leader of Majority commenting still on the same issue that is seized by another committee. We have also seen it, that the matter that we are interrogating, the sugar issue, everybody has now become an expert in TV shows, in funerals, in all manner of things, yet the committee has not made its report to the House. We have said that we are a House that believes in the rule of the law. We should also follow the rule of the law. And I think the majority leader is out of order.
Now, why have a second? Who speaks for have a second? Member for Yatta, you said have a second.
Mr. Speaker, that was a figure of speech. Mr. Speaker, is on the same stand in order. Is a leader of government business in order? Because, Mr. Speaker, first, he is a government. He's a leader of, he is the image of the government, the executive of arm which is appointing these people. Mr. Speaker, to threaten a nominee who has been appointed by the same appointing authority whom he serves, and instructing members of the Committee on Foreign Affairs to be ruthless and to punish her is making this House look of people who are vendetta, people who are very cheap. Mr. Speaker, is it in order, Mr. Speaker?
In his correct title, I want to also just refer you to Article 108 of the Constitution so that you now understand, you know his title. So I'm sure the member for Yatta, is used to, is beholden to the old days. And I do appreciate the Honorable Charles Kilonzo has not wanted to change a lot about what he knew in the past, just like the Honorable Wafula Munyinyi is beholden to the old prayer that used to be said before the 10th Parliament. So please just make reference to Article 108 and you will know, you may be able to refer to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in their correct titles. It is only found in the National Assembly under Article 108. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I have not eaten the mercury sugar, so I'm very sober. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lawyer representing any of the purported people facing courts like Honorable Otiende Amolo. I have only one job, and that is the job of the member for Garissa Township and the leader of majority. But, Mr. Speaker, let me not use names, but let me use institutions. Speaker, you have even said Article 108 of the Constitution that Honorable Otiende Amolo, when he was working for the Committee of Experts, created it, and the people of Kenya agreed with them, that created the leader of majority, the leader of minority, of course, the Speaker. And the Speaker, the chair of SRC then, because we are discussing SRC, till today, don't recognize that constitutional provision, that they treat those two offices, the leader of majority and the leader of minority and the whips, just like any other ordinary member of parliament. Speaker, that is a fact. And now we have an opportunity to deal with the matter of the composition of the men and women who will serve in SRC. Not only from parliament, even when Kenyan Defense Forces, TSC, the judiciary, when they nominate men and women, this House has an opportunity to vet those nominees. That we have an opportunity to say, this is what the law says. The Speaker, there's a bill before this House, which was read for the first time yesterday, on the pecking order. If you ask SRC today, in the pecking order, where is a member of parliament? It is in number 40-something, 48. 48, Mr. Speaker. Who placed members of parliament at number 48, Mr. Speaker? It's SRC. They never did. In fact, they were biased towards dealing with other arms of government. Speaker, today, the way they dealt with parliament is different from the way they dealt with the judiciary. It's different from the way they dealt with the executive. So, Mr. Speaker, let us not speak for the tribal cocoons we belong to all the regions. Let us do the vetting as per the law. Mr. Speaker, I have nothing against Ben Chumo, but I was not part of the case he's facing in court. And the Speaker, in as far as the case he's facing in court, and I'm not a lawyer, I have no law firm. If he's paying some lawyers, you can only defend him in a court of law, not in the chamber. Not in the chamber. So, Mr. Speaker, Section 62 of the Anti-Corruption Act disqualifies. Speaker, you chair the Committee of Appointment. In the Act, the 3 criteria we use to vet an individual is his qualification, experience, and integrity. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, relevant committees of this House, and it is in the report, that EACC is given an opportunity to do a confidential letter on a nominee, that the DCI must clear, that the DPP must clear, that even if you didn't pay your university loans board, this is the opportunity you ask, were you a recipient of higher education loans board? Yes. Did you pay? That is why KRA is given an opportunity to tell Parliament on your tax compliance. So, Mr. Speaker, if EACC and the DCI and
any nominees forwarded to Parliament so that the time of Parliament is not spent in vetting and trying to approve someone who has a lot of integrity issues around that person. We are aware, Mr. Speaker, and it is us who developed this rule, that before a nominee is approved for appointment to a state office, that person, we must get confirmation from EACC, DCI, and these other state agencies. Mr. Speaker, that therefore means that even someone who is under investigation, not even charged in court, should not ordinarily be approved for appointment to a state office. And therefore, a case where it is even in a public domain that the nominee has not only been investigated, but prosecution has been recommended against him. And the DPP has gone ahead to have him arrested and taken to court. And the matter is in court. How then would anyone imagine that that person can hold a state office? Mr. Speaker, therefore, the issue of nomination of Dr. Chumo is clearly and without any contradiction had to be rejected. And in fact, if I were him, if he was a man of high integrity, from this vetting, I want to decline the nomination. As far as I'm concerned, and I think this is the law, the person stands suspended. Once you have been presented to court with a case on economic crime, you stand suspended from any public appointment. And therefore, if in any case the management of Egerton still purports to have him in their board, I think to me they will be surcharged because at their time will come. I hope they are watching or they will be able to hear this very, very clearly, that the Public Accounts Committee of this, the Auditor General, will take action on them, and the Public Accounts Committee of this Parliament will surcharge them. So, Mr. Speaker, that to me is very clear. I want to just conclude that SRC, and probably speak to the appointing authority, that the chair of SRC, I think we need serious consensus. because we don't want a chair of SRC who is going to treat others, some state officers, with a condescending attitude. I want to say and put it on record that it was very demeaning for the previous SRC to refer to members of parliament as having qualification equivalent to cleaners. Mr. Speaker, the fact that we have come to represent our people does not make us less educated. We are educated, we are senior, and it is interesting, although some of us were raising points of order. I think it is very good that some of these people who thought we have a very low responsibility are soon going to face the same people they thought were very junior, so that they can know that we are not junior. Because I heard members of SRC saying that they cannot easily evaluate our roles, they cannot understand us in the pecking order. Someone whom you can go to seek employment must be known, you must know that that person is seriously senior. So this is the right time for some of those people. I'm not going to mention names because I may rattle some people, but I'm telling you that it is music to my ears that some of the people who actually thought that we don't have powers are soon going to realize that we actually and truly have powers. Job. Mr. Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Kainan, you know, is my senior, and he wants to inform me. I cannot reject information from someone who has been in Parliament for 4 terms.
Very well. I think since you have accepted the information.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you, Honorable Mbadi, for allowing me to inform you that indeed power of the Kenyan people lies with the electorate. If you read Article 121 of the Constitution, representation is equated to the sovereignty of the Republic of Kenya. And to that extent, power lies with the elected representative of the people of Kenya. And therefore, you do not need to inform any other person. And that is where you are today, and exercise your powers.
I think with that the complementary contribution from Honorable Kainan, and I said he has served one more term than I have served in this August House. I take that information very seriously, and I think the people of Kenya, and those doubting Thomases, people who don't really understand the role of a member of parliament, out there will understand that we have a direct mandate from the electorate, that we exercise the sovereign power from the people delegated to us, that we are only answerable to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the committee, and I also want to add as I sit down that I know and I understand how the chair of the Finance Committee was at pains, really, to explain why they rejected this appointment. And I want to just urge those who are listening out there that this is not Limo's report. Limo has very little contribution. This is a committee's report, and they had no choice.
Have you've already pulled your table?
No. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, it is very true that this House was asked by the President to assist the President in the fight against corruption. When then the names are facing charges, in fact, economical criminal charges in court come to before a committee of this House. Honorable Speaker, it is just in the right direction to reject the appointment so that all of us and all those public officers can know that Parliament is very serious in the fight against corruption. Honorable Speaker, it is funny that in other countries, like what I heard from India, when a train got an accident, the Minister for Transport resigned. In other countries, when you are mentioned on corruption charges, some public officers commit suicide. In Kenya, when you are actually supposed to be in the cells, I don't know when they got out. I don't know when Dr. Ben Chumo got out, probably on bail. and walk majestically in front of a committee and actually asking that he need and giving us credentials so that we can reward them for mismanaging public fund. Honorable Speaker, it only boil down and show us how this country, we are not only immoral, but we don't have that sense of integrity. Because if I were Ben Chumo, I will have walked into the committee, excused myself, said, because there are so many Kenyans who are also qualified, let me, first of all, want to protect your name. We have really to uphold our integrity. So, Honorable Speaker, for me, I really do support this report, and I urge the House that let us stamp our authority and make sure that we assist the head of state in fighting corruption. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Shakil Shabil, the chair of APNAC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I want to declare that I'm a member of the Finance Committee, but also as the chair of APNAC, the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption. There is no way that we have accused Ben Chuma of any crime, but we have said that the allegations that are there put a mark, a question, and for a position that you're asking, you should be beyond reproach. And what do you mean beyond reproach? Those who have not read the history of Caesar, Caesar's wife they started slandering Caesar's wife that she is doing A, B, and C. Caesar called his wife and she denied every single thing and she could prove it. But Caesar said that because you are the wife of Caesar, you must be beyond reproach. This gentleman is not beyond reproach. One thing that you have not said here is this same gentleman has been already charged in a court of law in a matter of procurement while he was the chair of Egerton University. He never disclosed it. While we were vetting, and I, for one, boycotted the vetting, initial vetting, but I did not boycott the final sitting where we discussed whether we were going to agree or not. We felt that a situation like this requires a person who is cleaner than clean. We felt that the executive was let down, or rather the executive let us down, in that the DCI was asked through a letter where his name, Ben Chumo's name was given, and his ID number was given to give us their recommendation. And they refused and did not send a recommendation. They sent back a letter saying, give us the ID number. So we know that the DCI, who is the same person or the same institution is charging this person, is not coming back to us and telling us we are charging this person. So that is one. Then another issue, that this same gentleman is beyond 62 years age. And when you are doing that, and when we are talking about issues like this, we have to look at what is there on the papers and what is there in the minds of the people. We stand here, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the integrity of this House. Every single member, the integrity and ethics of this House. And as such, I am today standing proud that the Finance Committee insisted and agreed that the ethics are required, integrity is required. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, I know that the law requires certain things, but this morning I got a very interesting example from a person, from yourself, Mr. Speaker, where you said if a judge is sitting and he's watching and somebody from his court shoots another person in front of his eyes, the judge cannot just immediately condemn him, although the people in the court might be saying that we have seen him and he was shot and he was killed by this bullet. But there has to be a process. However, when you're looking at a situation like this, sometimes you have to say, all right, we cannot make that judgment whether you're guilty or not, but at this moment in time, take away the gun from that person. Take away the gun from that person and tell that person, we are putting you under some sort of custody until we know what you're doing. So I think this is what's happened, and Mr. Ben Chuma should clear his name, and when he comes back, I'm sure we will give him the required support. Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is another case here where I think the executive has probably let down the president. Mr. President has been let down. I see that there's a nomination of a person as an ambassador to a very strictly Islamic country called Saudi Arabia. And that person is not of Muslim extract. That person does not know Arabic. That person does not know...
Honorable Shakil, we're saying that those matters are not here.
I agree.
See,
sorry, sir.
Obviously, ambassadors are not religious.
I was only giving it. I'm
Nobody
so sorry.
is being nominated to go to a mosque to represent the interests of the country. Therefore, your religion, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as an ambassador here, it doesn't have to be a Christian. The majority of Kenyans are Christians. So surely, now if we begin looking at things this way, now what are we doing? Yeah, surely. And in any event, there's really there's no motion like that one before us. So, honourable members, standing order number 86 and ran together with standing order number 106 on relevance. So please, I don't want to throw a member out on account of being irrelevant, because you know it is dishonor if you are repetitive and irrelevant. It is dishonor for which you can earn some few hours out of the house. So please, let's just stick to the motion. Honorable Shakir, I'm sure you know this.
I withdraw, sir. I was giving the example of sometimes, you know, your juniors might do something and they've not really done their work. But I do withdraw that one. I accept, and I truly accept what you are saying.
Making pronouncement, even before nominees appears before these, the respective committees. It is not only intimidation, but Mr. Speaker, it is prejudicial. And it is good, actually, some nominees may even, resolve to withdraw from that process, saying it is not going to be fair, it's not going to be, orderly. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as a precedent, I would like to see members that once the nomination or the appointments have been committed to the House and to the relevant committees, we need to abide to our standing orders and not refer to them either in the House or even outside the House before the motion is before this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely. Well, that is absolutely correct. I think it is not fair. Let's give everybody a fair chance. And even if they smell like they have come from some place. Because I don't know how those ones who have come from Legio Maria Church smell like. But Honorable Limo.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, as I thank the members who have contributed to this motion, Mr. Speaker, I wish to also say that for record purpose is in the committee. It is actually good that you retain that in the committee until the tabling of the report. That is when the public is actually then informed officially. Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that in this particular issue, Mr. Speaker, for record purposes, there was no memoranda. There was no memorandum whatsoever from the public to oppose the appointment of Dr. Chuma. It is only that particular issue of police arrest. And Mr. Speaker, for record purposes, I want also to put on record that that particular arrest was actually for the case which Honorable member for Nakuru East wanted to clarify, that this matter was for procurement done in 2011, 2012, and he was appointed in July 2013. And therefore, the only thing which we picked as a committee is that he, Mr. Chuma himself, having received a report from a technical committee of Kenya Power and Lighting Company in 2015, he actually suspended, one, the supply, the continuous supply of those particular transformers which were faulty. Two, he stopped issuance of those particular transformers which were in the store. And three, he stopped payment to the supplier. So what happened now, after he left, he retired in January 2017. Thereafter, the supplier went to court. And the court and the company, the current management, pulled the case out of court and paid the supplier. So the ones who have paid are also arrested. But particularly, we observed, Mr. Speaker, and even you can observe, that the people who procured have not been arrested. So for record purposes, we have to put on record. We have to put on record. And this country cannot be managed by maybe avoiding others and picking others. I want to say this case is a clear case of there is a case, yes. But we cannot really say that this particular individual is guilty, but the law is clear. When the case is in court, you step aside. Because he's not been appointed, we have proposed that he should not be appointed. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this committee cannot be intimidated.
Which has already been investigating by the people you are likely to recommend to investigate.